My wife's affair. Started on her girls' trip and ended our marriage. The champagne flute slipped from my fingers when I saw the photo on Sarah's phone. She'd left it charging on the kitchen counter while she showered, and the notification had lit up the screen like a beacon of betrayal. There he was, a man I'd never seen before, shirtless on a beach with a message that read, "Can't stop thinking about our nights in Cabo." Cabo, the girls' trip she'd taken 3 months ago with her college friends. The trip I'd encouraged her to take because she'd seemed so stressed lately. The trip that apparently had changed everything. The before times. Sarah and I had been married for 12 years. We'd met at a mutual friend's barbecue when we were both 25, full of ambition and dreams about the future. She was working as a marketing coordinator at a startup, and I was grinding through law school. What struck me first wasn't her beauty, though. She was beautiful, with auburn hair that caught the light and green eyes that seemed to see right through my practiced charm. It was her laugh. Genuine, unrestrained, the kind that made everyone around her want to be in on the joke. We built a life together brick by brick. First came the tiny apartment in Queens, where the radiator clanged all night, and the hot water lasted exactly 7 minutes. Then, the wedding, small but perfect, in her parents' backyard with string lights and her grandmother's vintage dress altered to fit. The house in Westchester came next, a fixer-upper that we spent weekends painting and arguing over tile samples. 2 kids followed, Emma, now 10, with her mother's red hair and my stubborn streak, and Lucas, 8, who collected rocks and asked endless questions about everything from black holes to why people cry. I thought we were happy. Looking back, I realized I'd confused comfort with contentment, routine with connection. We'd become expert administrators of our shared life, dividing school pickups, soccer practices, and grocery runs with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. But when was the last time we'd really talked? When had we stopped seeing each other as lovers and started seeing each other as co-managers of Team Anderson, or saw the trip? The idea for the girls' trip came from Sarah's friend Monica during one of their wine nights at our house. I was upstairs putting the kids to bed, but I could hear their laughter drifting up through the floorboards. "We should do it," Monica was saying, "just like college. Remember that spring break in Miami? That was 15 years ago," Sarah had laughed. "We're different people now. Exactly why we need this. When's the last time any of us did something just for ourselves?" When Sarah brought it up later that night, I was supportive. Enthusiastic, even. She'd been working long hours on a major campaign, and the stress showed in the tension she carried in her shoulders, the way she'd fallen asleep on the couch 3 nights that week. "You should go," I said, pulling her close in bed. "I can handle the kids. It'll be good for you." She'd kissed me, then really kissed me, not the perfunctory pecks that had become our norm. "You're sure? Absolutely, you deserve it." How many times would I replay that moment, wondering if I'd seen something in her eyes? A flicker of guilt, anticipation. Or was that just my mind, rewriting history, searching for clues that were never there? The week before the trip, Sarah was different, energized. She bought new clothes, sundresses, and bikinis that she modeled for me, with an almost shy excitement. She got her hair done, came home with fresh highlights and a bounce in her step I hadn't seen in years. I was happy for her, proud even. My wife was remembering who she was outside of being a mother and spouse. "You look amazing," I told her the night before she left, watching her pack carefully folded outfits into her suitcase. She paused, holding a red dress I'd never seen before. "Do I?" "Always have." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I love you, you know that." "Of course, I love you too." But there was something in the way she said it, like she was trying to convince herself, or maybe apologize for something that hadn't happened yet. Thus the changes. The trip was 5 days in Cabo San Lucas. Sarah texted regularly, at first pictures of the resort and the 4 friends by the pool sunset dinners. But by day 3, the messages became sporadic. When I called that evening, she sounded distracted. "Is everything okay?" I asked. Emma had thrown up at school, and I'd spent the afternoon juggling a conference call while cleaning vomit from the car seat. "Yeah, fine, just the girls want to go out. You know how Monica gets." Have fun, be safe." "Always am." When she came home, she was tanned and glowing, but something was off. She hugged the kids fiercely, gave me a kiss that felt like an afterthought. That night in bed, when I reached for her, she turned away. "I'm exhausted," she said. The flight was terrible. But she wasn't too exhausted to stay up until 2 a.m. on her phone. I could see the glow from her side of the bed, hear the soft tap of her typing. When I asked who she was texting, she said it was Monica, sharing photos from the trip. The changes were subtle at first. She started going to the gym religiously, something she'd always talked about, but never committed to. She bought new perfume, something floral and young, that replaced the vanilla scent she'd worn since we'd met. She was on her phone constantly, but would set it face down whenever I entered the room. "You seem different," I said one night over dinner. The kids were at my parents' house, and I'd made her favorite linguine with clam sauce, the meal I'd cooked for her on our third date. "Different how?" She twirled her fork, not meeting my eyes. "I don't know, distant maybe." "I'm just processing," she said. "The trip made me realize some things." "What kind of things?" She finally looked at me, and the sadness in her eyes made my stomach drop. "I don't know who I am anymore, David. I'm Sarah the mom, Sarah the wife, Sarah the marketing director. But who is just Sarah?" "You're all of those things," I said, reaching for her hand. "That's what makes you you." She pulled away. But what if that's not enough? I should have pushed harder, should have recognized the crisis brewing beneath her words. Instead, I retreated into my own hurt, telling myself she was going through a phase that she'd remember what we had once the novelty of her newfound independence wore off. Sar the Discovery. 3 months passed in this strange limbo. We functioned as a family, attended Emma's dance recitals, cheered at Lucas's baseball games, hosted my brother's birthday dinner. To outsiders, we probably looked normal, maybe even happy. But at night, we lay in bed like strangers, an ocean of cold sheets between us. She'd started taking calls outside, claiming it was work. But her voice carried a lightness that had nothing to do with marketing strategies. She went on 2 more girls' weekends, one to a spa in Arizona, another to New York. Both times she came back with that same glow, that same distance. I told myself I was being paranoid. This was Sarah, my Sarah, who had held my hand through my father's death, who'd believed in me when I'd wanted to leave corporate law to start my own practice. The woman who'd spent 36 hours in labor with Emma, refusing an epidural because she wanted to experience everything. She wasn't capable of betrayal. Then came that Saturday morning. She was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the counter where she'd left it charging. I wasn't snooping, at least that's what I told myself. I was just going to silence it. But the preview showed everything. "Jake, can't stop thinking about our nights in Cabo. When can I see you again?" Jake, not a woman's name, not one of the girls. My hands shook as I picked up the phone. Her passcode was Emma's birthday. It had always been Emma's birthday. The messages opened like Pandora's box. 3 months of conversations, photos, plans, lies. Jake was 35, divorced, a photographer she'd met at the resort bar on the second night. The girls had gone to bed early, but Sarah had stayed for one more drink. That drink had turned into hours of conversation, then a walk on the beach, then I couldn't read the details. My eyes blurred, my chest tightened. But certain phrases burned themselves into my memory. "I've never felt this alive. My marriage has been over for years, I just didn't want to admit it. I can't stop thinking about you. David's a good man, but I'm not in love with him anymore." The shower stopped. I set the phone down, my mind racing. Should I confront her immediately? Pretend I hadn't seen anything? My body made the decision for me. I fled to the garage, claiming I needed to check something in the car. I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. 20 years of my life. 2 children, a home, a future. All of it built on what I thought was solid ground, now revealed to be sand. To bar the confrontation. I waited 2 days. 2 days of pretending everything was normal while I contacted a lawyer, opened my own bank account, and tried to figure out how to protect my children from the explosion that was coming. 2 days of watching her smile at the kids while texting him under the dinner table. I finally confronted her on a Tuesday night after the kids were asleep. She was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, with a small smile that I now knew wasn't for me. "Who's Jake?" The color drained from her face. Her phone clattered onto the coffee table. "What?" "Jake, from Cabo. The photographer you've been texting for 3 months?" She stood up, then sat back down, her hands trembling. "How did you— Does it matter? Is it true?" The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, she nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes." That single word shattered something inside me. Until that moment, I'd held onto a thread of hope that it was all a misunderstanding, that there was an explanation that would make everything okay. "How could you—" My voice was eerily calm, which seemed to scare her more than if I'd been yelling. "I didn't mean for it to happen." She said, the words tumbling out. I went for a walk on the beach because I couldn't sleep. He was there taking photos of the sunrise. We started talking, and it was like I was 25 again. No responsibilities, no routine, just possibility. So you slept with him. And not that night, she said, as if that made it better. We talked until the sun came up, about art and travel and dreams I'd forgotten I had. He saw me David, not as someone's wife or mother, just as Sarah. I see you, I said, my calm finally cracking. I've seen you every day for 12 years. No, she shook her head. You see what you want to see. The efficient partner, the good mother, the woman who has everything figured out. But I'm drowning David. I've been drowning for years, and you never noticed. So you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me. I tried to talk to you. Remember last year when I said I wanted to take that art class? You said it was impractical with the kids' schedules. When I mentioned maybe going back for my master's, you pointed out how it would affect our finances. Every dream I've shared, you've had a reason why it wouldn't work. I was being realistic. You were being a lawyer. She was standing now, years of resentment pouring out. Everything is a negotiation with you, a problem to be solved. But I didn't need solutions. I needed my husband to dream with me again. When did we stop being partners and start being a corporation? Don't turn this around on me, I said. You're the one who chose to. I know what I chose. She collapsed back onto the couch, sobbing. I know what I did, and I know it's unforgivable, but I can't unfeel what I felt with him. For the first time in years, I remembered who I was before I became who everyone needed me to be. So Rogers, the unraveling. The next months were a blur of lawyers, mediators, and impossible conversations with the kids. Emma, perceptive as always, knew something was wrong before we told her. Are you and Mom getting divorced? She asked one night while I tucked her in. We're figuring things out. I said, the lie tasting bitter. Because of the trip, my heart stopped. What do you know about the trip? I heard Mom crying on the phone. She kept saying she was sorry about what happened in Mexico. I pulled her close, this little girl, who understood too much. Sometimes adults make mistakes. But no matter what happens with Mom and me, we both love you and Lucas more than anything in the world. Well, we have to move. I don't know yet, sweetheart. But wherever you are, you'll be okay, I promise. Sarah moved into the guest room while we worked out the details. We tried counseling 3 sessions where we sat on opposite ends of a beige couch, while Dr. Martinez asked us to share our feelings. But how do you rebuild trust when the foundation has crumbled? I ended it with Jake, Sarah told me after the second session. The day you confronted me, I called him and ended it. Well, why? Because it wasn't real. It was a fantasy, an escape. He doesn't know me, not really. He knows Vacation Sarah, the woman with no responsibilities and perfect beach hair. But that's not who I am. Then who are you? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, that's what I need to figure out. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. We split custody. The kids would spend weekdays with Sarah in the house and weekends with me in my new apartment. It was smaller than what they were used to, but I tried to make it home. Emma helped me paint her room purple, and Lucas arranged his rock collection on custom shelves we built together. Taunts the aftermath. It's been 2 years now. The sharp edge of betrayal has dulled to a persistent ache, like an old injury that flares up in bad weather. I've dated a little. My brother's wife keeps setting me up with her friends, but I find myself comparing everyone to the Sarah I thought I knew, the woman who maybe never existed outside my own perception. Sarah seems different now. She did go back for her master's, started teaching art therapy at a community center. When we exchange the kids, I sometimes see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, the spontaneous laugh, the passionate gesture, as she describes a breakthrough with one of her students. But there's also a sadness there, a weight to her movements that suggests she carries her own regrets. I'm sorry, she said to me last month apropos of nothing as Lucas ran to her car. I know I've said it before, but I'm sorry for how I handled everything. You deserved better. We both did, I replied and meant it. The kids are adjusting. Emma's in middle school now, navigating the complex world of 13-year-old politics, with her mother's determination and my analytical mind. She asked me recently if I thought I'd ever get back together with her mom. No, sweetheart. Some things can't be fixed once they're broken. But you still love her. I thought about it, really thought about it. I love who she was to me, and I love that she's your mother. But the person I married, I'm not sure she ever really existed, or maybe she just changed. People do that sometimes. Will I change? Everyone changes. The trick is to change together, not apart. Lucas thankfully seems less affected. He still collects rocks, still asks impossible questions. Last week he wanted to know why people make promises they can't keep. Sometimes they mean it when they say it, I told him. But feelings can change. That's stupid, he said with 10-year-old certainty. If you promise something, you should keep it forever. If only it were that simple. Back to reflections. I think about that girls' trip, often wondering if it was the catalyst or just the inevitable conclusion to a marriage that had been slowly dying. Would Sarah have strayed eventually anyway? Would I have woken up one day and realized we were strangers sharing a mortgage? Or could we have found our way back to each other if Cabo had never happened? Monica told me once, after too much wine at a school fundraiser, that Sarah had been unhappy for years. She used to talk about feeling invisible. Monica said, then caught herself. I shouldn't. It's okay. I need to understand. She loved you, David. She still does in her way. But she felt like she disappeared into the roles she played. The trip, Jake, it wasn't about him. It was about feeling seen again. She could have talked to me. Monica gave me a pitying look. When between depositions and soccer practice, you two were so busy being perfect parents and professionals that you forgot to be people. She wasn't wrong. In the aftermath, I've done my own soul searching, my own therapy. Dr. Chen, my therapist, asked me once to describe my marriage without using the words comfortable or stable. I couldn't do it. You built a life, he said, but did you build a relationship? The truth is, we'd both failed each other in different ways. I'd taken Sarah for granted, assumed that the life we'd built was enough to sustain us. I'd stopped seeing her as a woman with dreams and desires beyond our suburban existence. And she'd chosen the nuclear option instead of fighting for us, had looked outside our marriage for what was missing within it. Dumber moving forward. Last week I ran into Jake at a coffee shop in the city. I recognized him from the photos, tall bearded, the kind of casually disheveled that takes effort. He was alone, reading a battered copy of Kerouac because of course he was. I could have walked away, but something made me approach. You're Jake. He looked up, confusion, then recognition, then fear flashing across his face. David! Yeah. Look, I'm sorry about... Don't! I held up a hand. I'm not here to fight. I wanted to see you, to understand. He closed his book, gestured to the empty chair. Against my better judgment, I sat. She talked about you, he said quietly. A lot, actually. Said you were a good man, a good father. Said she hated herself for hurting you. But not enough to stop. No, he admitted. Not at first. The thing is, what we had wasn't real. It was intense and passionate and completely unsustainable. Built on fantasy and margaritas and the fiction that we could exist outside reality. When did it end? So the day you found out. She called me crying, said she'd destroyed her family for a dream. I tried to convince her we could make it work, but she was right. I didn't know her kids' middle names or how she took her coffee or what scared her at 3 a.m. I knew the vacation version of her, and that's not enough to build a life on. Do you regret it? He was quiet for a moment. I regret the pain it caused, but I don't regret knowing her even briefly. She reminded me that connection is possible, that people can still surprise you. I'm sorry it came at your expense. I left the coffee shop feeling strangely lighter. Not forgiven that wasn't his to give, but understood maybe. We'd all been searching for something, Sarah for her lost self, Jake for connection, me for the security of an unchanging life. None of us had found exactly what we were looking for, but maybe that was the point. Maybe the search itself was what mattered. This is the new normal. Tomorrow, Emma has a dance recital. Sarah and I will sit in the auditorium, not together, but not exactly apart, watching our daughter leap and spin across the stage. We'll take photos, exchange proud smiles, be the divorced parents who figured out how to coexist for their children's sake. Lucas has a science fair project due next week. Something about erosion and rock formation that he's explained to me a dozen times, with infectious enthusiasm. Sarah and I will both help tag teaming the parental support, like the efficient machine we always were. This isn't the life I planned. The house feels too empty during the week, too full on weekends. I've learned to cook beyond my 3 standard meals, discovered that I actually enjoy the quiet Sunday mornings I once filled with work. I've started seeing someone, Lisa, a pediatrician with a sharp wit and her own baggage from a marriage that ended badly. We're taking it slow, both of us too scarred to rush into anything that resembles forever. Sarah seems happier now, or at least more herself. The kids talk about her art projects, the way she's turned the garage into a studio, how she plays music too loud while she paints. She's dating too, according to Emma, though no one's serious. Mom says she needs to figure out who she is first. Emma reported, and I had to admire the honesty of that. Sometimes when I pick up the kids, I see glimpses of what we were a shared joke about Lucas's latest obsession, a coordinated effort to handle Emma's teenage dramas. For those moments, we're partners again, united in the beautiful, impossible task of raising these humans we created together. But then the moment passes, and we retreat to our separate lives, our separate futures. The wedding photos are boxed in the attic, the joint dreams filed away, with the tax returns from happier years. We're writing new stories now separately, but somehow still connected by the children who carry parts of us both. The affair that started on a beach in Cabo didn't just end our marriage. It revealed that it had been ending for years, a slow erosion we'd both ignored, until the foundation finally gave way. It forced us to confront the comfortable lies we'd been living, the ways we'd failed each other and ourselves. Do I forgive her? Some days, yes. Others, the betrayal feels fresh as ever, triggered by a song on the radio or the scent of her old perfume in a crowd. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't a destination, but a journey, one I'm still navigating. Do I forgive myself? That's harder. For the ways I took her for granted, for the dreams I dismissed as impractical, for seeing only what I wanted to see, for building a life that looked perfect from the outside but left no room for growth or change, or the messy, beautiful evolution of two people trying to figure out who they are. The girls' trip was supposed to be a break, a chance for Sarah to reconnect with old friends and remember who she used to be. Instead, it became the catalyst for the complete dismantling of the life we'd built together. But maybe that's what needed to happen. Maybe we'd been living in a house of cards all along, and it took a photographer named Jake and 5 days in Mexico to show us how fragile our construction really was. I still drive by our old house, sometimes see the new family's minivan in the driveway, their kids' bikes scattered on the lawn we once kept meticulously trimmed. They've painted the shutters blue. Sarah always wanted to do that, but I'd argued for keeping them classic black. I hope they're happy there. Hope they're building something more solid than we did. The champagne flute I dropped that morning left a small chip in the kitchen tile, a tiny imperfection Sarah pointed out during the house walk-through with the realtor. We'll need to fix that, she'd said automatically. Then caught herself. There was no more we not in that way. But there's a different we now, the we who share custody schedules and pediatrician appointments, who text about homework, help, and summer camp options. The we who sit on opposite sides of school auditoriums and soccer fields, cheering for the same small humans. The we who failed at marriage but are determined not to fail at parenthood. It's not the life either of us planned, but it's the one we're living. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold through my apartment window. Emma's working on homework at the kitchen table. Lucas is building something elaborate with Legos in his room. In an hour, I'll call them for dinner, something simple but made with love, eaten together at our small table, where we share our days and our dreams and our small victories. Tomorrow, they'll go back to their mother, to the house where they have different rooms and different routines, but the same certainty that they are loved. And I'll return to building this new version of my life, one day at a time, one small choice after another. The girls' trip changed everything. It ended our marriage, shattered our family's foundation, and forced us all to reimagine what our futures might look like. But in the ruins of what we were, we're slowly building what we might become, not together, but not entirely apart either. And maybe someday I'll even be grateful for that.